All right, guys, let me know if you can hear me. I have an emergency alert. This thing just came out of nowhere. Um, Somebody asked, what's the strongest alert? The strongest alert is emergency alert. So this is the strongest alert. I usually have three, I guess you could say, levels. So I have breaking news, I have red alert, and then I have emergency alert. So emergency alert is like very, very critical. Okay, like this whole coup attempt that transpired over the last 48 hours, that was an emergency alert. So emergency alerts are only reserved for situations where there could be a catastrophic event, okay, that's imminent, okay? So that's when I use emergency alerts. So if there's about to be some kind of, you know, major world event that could bring about a war, if there's some kind of severe weather events like a hurricane about to make landfall, some kind of tornadoes or something very catastrophic is when I use emergency alerts. Breaking news is like important news, but it's not like catastrophic. And then I do red alerts, which is like in between an emergency alert and a breaking news. Okay, so a red alert is like one step above breaking news, but it's one step below an emergency alert. So it's not like catastrophic, something crazy is right about to happen, but it's something is maybe potentially happening down the road. All right, so hopefully that explains everything. I might phase out the red alerts and I may just do breaking news and emergency alerts just to simplify so people don't get confused. um, so let me share my screen here. Give me one moment. I was actually in the process of recording a video about this, but I said, let me just go live. So obviously, the last 48 hours, things have been really crazy with the coup attempt in Russia. Um, so, people have been glued to their screens. The whole world stood still when Prigozhin made his march towards Moscow. I don't care what anybody says. The whole world stood still. Everybody was watching what was going to happen. I honestly thought we were on the verge of nuclear war. I was afraid that, Prigozhin was going to go to Moscow. He was going to take Moscow, and Putin was going to launch nukes because he, that's just the way he is out of desperation. Because he said many times in the past that he's not going to end up like Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi. So I was really concerned, but we have some new breaking news here. We have this article that came out today from a British newspaper called The New Statesman. And apparently, they did an interview with Ukraine's intelligence chief, Kirilo Budanov. Okay, Kirilo Budanov is the head of Ukraine's military intelligence. All right. And he is saying that there's a plan to blow up the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and it's already been drafted and approved. Okay, this is absolutely insane, guys. And last week Zelensky warned the world that this was potentially going to happen. I reported on it, and then we had Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal give a press conference about how they want to pass a resolution in the Senate that would allow for NATO to get involved if Russia blows the nuclear plant or if Russia uses tactical nuclear weapons. Okay, and I clipped together portions of that press conference and I uploaded it onto my YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and check that out, but they used very strong words. Richard Blumenthal said that NATO would eviscerate, obliterate, and destroy Russian forces if they were to use tactical nuclear weapons or if they were to melt down the nuclear power plant. All right. So I have a really bad feeling that this could happen. But I want to read to you this article. He's now saying, Kirilo Budanov is now saying that Russia placed vehicles filled with explosives inside at 4 of the 6 reactors at Zaporizhia. Okay, Zaporizhia is the largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine. It has 6 nuclear reactors, and he's saying that 4 out of those 6 reactors have vehicles filled with explosives in them. Okay, now the UN made a visit to this power plant 10 days ago. Okay, the IAEA chief, Rafael Grossi, went to this power plant and he said that there were no mines anywhere, there were no explosives. He denied what Ukraine was saying. Um, so I don't know, who to believe or what, but Ukraine is insisting on this, that they do have mines there and that there are explosives there, but the UN is saying that there aren't. But it's very possible that the Russian troops, they could move explosives around. If they have vehicles filled with explosives, they can just move them. If, let's say, they knew that the IAEA was coming, right? They knew a couple of days in advance that they're coming on such and such day. All they have to do is just move those vehicles away and park them somewhere else and cover everything up so the IAEA can't see what's in the vehicles, right? It's not hard to move things around. So the UN is saying that they didn't see any evidence of explosives at the nuclear power plant, but Ukraine is now insisting that there's mines there. And Kirilo Budanov, the chief of Ukraine's military intelligence, is now saying 4 out of the 6 reactors have vehicles with explosives parked next to them. He also said that they plan to blow the cooling pond. Okay, and he's saying that they could also increase the electricity draw on the power plant in order to speed up a meltdown. So what he's saying is that they could blow the cooling pond, and once they blow the cooling pond, the water would get out of the cooling pond, and the power plant wouldn't have any cooling water. And he said that it would be between 10 hours to 2 weeks from that time to the point of a meltdown. But he said that Russia would increase the electricity draw in order to speed up the meltdown. Okay. So this is absolutely crazy. Now, in addition to this, we have several emergency action messages going out today that are very long. They have 246 characters. Okay. And I want to shout out the frequency friend for this information. All right. Let me show you his Twitter account. If you want to follow him, check him out. He posts about emergency action messages. He tweets about them. All right, this is his Twitter. If you go onto Twitter and you type in this handle, all right, type that in. Tell him I sent you. Say NYPrepper sent me. So he's the one that provided me with this information. So we have these really long emergency action messages that are 246 characters, and they're being repeated constantly today. All right. They've already been repeated, I don't know, like almost a dozen times. And normally emergency action messages are only like 20 or 30 characters. So this is very unusual. This hasn't been seen since February of this year. All right. The last time we had these long messages was back in February. Around the 1 year anniversary of the war. Okay. They were sending out all these messages because they thought maybe Putin was going to do like an anniversary strike. If you remember, I was covering that. So this is just an absolutely crazy situation, guys. I mean, the news is just nonstop. Absolutely insane. Let me just show you guys all of these 246 character messages here. Okay, so we have one message that was played out at 1900 hours, 3 repeats here. We had another one at 1830, 2 repeats. We had another one at 1800, 1 repeat. We had another one at 1727. So every 30 minutes, they were starting like from 1700 hours, every 30 minutes for like a 2-hour period. They were playing this message. So they played it once at 1727. So I think it started at around 1727. Okay, and this is UTC time. UTC time is 4 hours ahead of Eastern time in the United States. All right, so this was at 17 minus 12. This was at 5:30 UTC time, so that would have been 4 minus 5:30. That would have been at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So this afternoon, just 4 hours ago, this message first came out. All right, and then it was repeated 30 minutes later, one time, and then another 30 minutes later, it was repeated 2 times. And then another 30 minutes later, it was repeated 3 times. Okay. So very interesting. They started with 1 repeat, then they waited 30 minutes, then they repeated twice, and then they waited 30 minutes, and then they repeated 3 times. So that's very weird how they increased the number of repeats as time went on. They were repeating it more and more. Okay. So, I don't know what to make of this, guys. Nobody knows what this means. Okay. I don't know what these messages mean. These are transmitted over public radio frequencies and they're coded messages. Okay. They're alphanumeric coded messages. As you can see, they're just numbers and letters. That's all they are. They're transmitted. These messages are designed to be transmitted through VLF, very low frequency, in the event of a nuclear war. Okay, if we get into a nuclear war, our president and our Defense Department has to be able to communicate with our nuclear forces. And the only way they can do that, especially with our submarines, is with these coded alphanumeric messages. Because when you send out an alphanumeric message, it doesn't require a lot of bandwidth. So you can use very low frequency to achieve transmission. And you can also penetrate through ocean water. Okay. So they can send this message to our ballistic missile submarines, our SSBNs, our Ohio class subs. SSBN stands for subsurface ballistic nuclear. Okay. Our nuclear armed submarines. They can send these messages and they'll penetrate through the water. And the guys in our subs will be able to record these messages and then they'll know what each message means. Okay, because if there's a nuclear war, you have nuclear weapons exploding, you're not going to be able to get a lot of bandwidth out. There's going to be interference from the electromagnetic pulses and from the radiation. The radiation itself will interfere with communications. So the best way for them to transmit is through VLF. And so they have these emergency action messages, and they're used primarily as nuclear attack options. Okay, so these are nuclear attack options that are broadcasted to our ballistic missile subs. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to nuclear war right now. I'm not saying that. Okay, a nuclear attack option is just that. It's an option. Okay, the U.S. military is constantly changing their options based on what's going on. They're getting updated information, and they're constantly changing things around. Okay, so they have to transmit that information to our submarines so they know what's going on. The submarines don't have access to satellites. They don't have access to intelligence. Okay, they're literally underwater, 1,000 feet underwater, and they don't know what's going on outside in the outside world. So they need to have some communication with our Defense Department so we can update our subs on what's going on and how the subs should position themselves in case something were to happen. Okay, so these are they also call them force direction messages. Force direction messages is another one. They're very similar. So this is very unusual. I want to just go back to this article here, and I want to read this to you. This came out 2 days ago during the whole thing with Prigozhin. Okay, so it kind of slipped through the cracks. Nobody picked up on it because everybody was focusing on this possible overthrow of Putin. And I personally believe that if Prigozhin went to Moscow, I think he would have taken it. I don't think the Russian military would have stood in his way. I think he would have taken Moscow. And I think at that point, Putin would have resorted to nuclear weapons. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But I could see in Putin's body language when he gave that speech. He gave like a 5-minute speech. In his body language, you could see that he was scared. I mean, you could just see it, and the words that he was using. He was saying that this is a threat to our survival as a country, that this is a mortal wound to Russia, and according to Russian nuclear war doctrine, it clearly states that any threat to the survival of Russia would allow for the use of nuclear weapons. Okay. So let me read this article to you guys. This is just absolutely insane. So something could be going down in the very near future. Okay. And I also believe that the whole situation with Prigozhin is not over. Okay. I think that this was potentially a tactical retreat by Prigozhin because he knew that things would escalate and there would be bloodshed. He even said so himself. So it's possible that Prigozhin could wait for the Ukrainian counterattack to start, and he could wait for the Russian military to be weakened more, and then he could make his move, on Moscow. That's just my opinion. We'll have to wait and see. So let me read this article to you guys. In an interview with the New Statesman today in the Rybalsky compound of Ukraine's military intelligence services in Kyiv, Kyrylo Budanov warned that Russia has finished preparations for an attack on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in the southeast of the country. According to Budanov, who leads the main intelligence directorate, the cooling pond of the plant has been mined by Russian troops. Without cooling, the nuclear reactors could melt in a period of between 10 hours and 14 days. He believes Russia would be able to raise the voltage in the power supply lines to the plant, bringing about a nuclear accident at the lower end of that time frame. As Budanov put it during the interview, technical means could be used to speed up the catastrophe. All right, so they would just increase the draw of electricity to melt down the power plant faster. So this way the West can't get in there and try to stop it, So they would basically blow that cooling pond and then immediately draw a lot of electricity to melt it down immediately before NATO could get involved or whatever. Ukrainian military intelligence has also been able to establish that Russian troops have moved vehicles charged with explosives to 4 of the 6 power units. Okay, I'll repeat that again. Ukrainian military intelligence has also been able to establish that Russian troops have moved vehicles charged with explosives to 4 out of the 6 reactors. Okay, this is absolutely huge news, guys. Absolutely huge. I believe this is the first time that Ukraine has officially stated that they put this many explosives. I remember a few months ago they said that they put explosives at the reactor number 4. Now they're saying 4 of these reactors are rigged. Okay, that they have vehicles filled with explosives. All right, and the reason why they would do that, rather than putting like C4 demolition charges right on the reactor itself, is because if you put it in a vehicle, you can move that vehicle around. So if inspectors come in to check it out, you can move that vehicle away and hide it, okay? And I think that could be what happened when Rafael Grossi showed up to the power plant. They probably moved these vehicles out of the way, and Rafael Grossi took a tour and he didn't see anything. And that could be what happened. It is unclear if the IAEA was granted access to these units during its visit on June the 15th. So we don't even know if Russia allowed Rafael Grossi to even visit these units, these reactors. We don't even know. Everything is a secret, so we just don't know. So I'm going to just continue reading here. On June 22nd, Vladimir Zelensky made an alarming public announcement suggesting an attack on Zaporizhia could happen at any moment. The intelligence came from Ukraine's main directorate. The prospect of a provoked accident has been raised before, but Budanov thinks this time is different. The situation has never been as severe as now, he said. Okay, that is crazy, guys. All right. So I'll say that again. Budanov, the head of Ukraine's military intelligence, says the situation has never been as severe as now. Okay. Obviously, it was bad enough that Zelensky had to make a speech about it. Okay. He made that speech on Thursday, right before Prigozhin launched his attack on Moscow, or his march, whatever you want to call it. Zelensky added that Ukraine's interior ministry has been tasked with preparing the population with how to respond to a nuclear catastrophe. Okay. So this is absolutely crazy, guys. Ukraine is already preparing for this. Okay. They're already preparing their population for a meltdown of this power plant. Okay. And so the head of Ukraine's military intelligence is saying the situation has never been as severe as now. All right. That is just absolutely crazy. I want to just quickly say, if you guys remember, I did an emergency alert like 2 days before Prigozhin launched his attack, and everybody said that it was just a drill. It's just a drill, and also on other channels, like on Lee Wheelbarger's channel on KLW World News, he reported it, and people were saying, oh, it's just a drill. This happens all the time, all these EAMs. And it turns out the New York Times reported today that the U.S. had advanced notice of this coup attempt by Prigozhin. Okay, they knew at least 2 days ahead, before the coup was launched, which was Friday. Okay, he launched it on Friday, and they knew 2 days in advance. So if you remember, it was Wednesday when they were broadcasting like dozens of emergency action messages. They broadcasted like as many as 100 messages on Wednesday, and over like a 2-hour period, Lee Wheelbarger was live and he was covering it. They were just nonstop, every back to back, just like dozens of messages over a 2-hour period. And I think that's why they transmitted all those emergency action messages. Okay, because they got notice of it 2 days in advance, and literally they just started transmitting those messages. They probably found out and they just immediately started transmitting. So today, like I said, those really long emergency action messages being repeated back to back over a 2-hour period. There were 4 repeats. Okay, 4 of them spaced out 30 minutes apart, starting around 1 p.m. Eastern time today. They broadcasted a 246 character emergency action message, and then they broadcasted it again 30 minutes later, and then they broadcasted it again 30 minutes after that, but then they repeated it twice, and then they broadcasted it again another 30 minutes later, and then they repeated 3 times. Okay, 246 character message, which is extremely unusual. So I don't know if it's related to this. We'll have to wait and see. So let me just continue reading here. I asked Ukraine's spy master if the decision to blow up the power plant has been taken. He is confident the plan is fully drafted and approved. The only element missing is the order to go ahead. Then it can happen in a matter of minutes. When the order will come depends on how Russia sees the potential benefits from a nuclear disaster in southern Ukraine. Budanov told me there are two possibilities. The first would be to blow up the power plant if its forces get ousted from the left bank of the Dnieper River. Russia would then create a zone of destruction and exclusion as a way to prevent Ukraine from advancing. The strategy may also serve as a threat not to attack Russian positions. The second possibility is that Russia would use a nuclear disaster as a preventative measure, in Budanov's words. The goal in this case would be to stop Ukraine's offensive before it starts and to freeze the line of contact as it exists. If Russia is convinced that it cannot stop a Ukrainian advance any other way, it would activate what Zelensky in his address called a terrorist attack with radiation leakage. Okay? So he's basically saying that this plan has been fully drafted and approved. Okay? He is confident the plan is fully drafted and approved. The only element missing is the order to go ahead. Then it can happen in a matter of minutes. Okay? So this is crazy, guys. Just so much stuff going on. Absolutely insane, guys. I just, nonstop breaking news. And yeah, NATO would most likely have to respond based on what Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal said, that NATO would respond and invoke Article 5 if Russia uses nuclear weapons or if they blow the nuclear power plant. They're in the process right now of drafting an agreement in the Senate. And the agreement would basically state that if Russia uses nuclear weapons against Ukraine, or if they blow the nuclear plant, that NATO would destroy, eviscerate, and obliterate Russian forces. Okay, and I'll play the video clip for you so you can hear it from the horse's mouth himself, Richard Blumenthal, saying these very strong words that I've never heard an American politician ever say in my lifetime, and I don't think I've ever heard of any politician, even during the Cold War, ever saying that NATO would obliterate, eviscerate, and destroy Russian forces. I mean, those are very strong words. So the Senate is going to be voting on this, and it's not a coincidence that they all of a sudden now are thinking about it. Okay, they obviously have intelligence about it. Okay, it's not like Ukraine is operating in a vacuum by themselves. Okay, they're sharing intelligence. Okay, everything that happens in Ukraine is sharing their intelligence with our intelligence agencies. So all of this intelligence is going to our intelligence agencies, and then they're going to be briefing our senators, our congressmen, and our president. So it's not like we're kept in the dark. We know what's going on, okay, as much as Ukraine does. So, just like with Prigozhin, they knew ahead of time that Prigozhin was going to launch this attack, and then they started broadcasting the EAMs, okay? So Kate is asking, who were the emergency alerts broadcasting for, Ukraine or Russia? So these are emergency action messages that are broadcasted to America's nuclear forces, and they're broadcasted by the Pentagon, the U.S. military, and it's just a way for them to communicate with our nuclear forces, specifically our submerged nuclear-armed submarines. And so these messages always go out before something is about to happen. And today we had several of these very long messages that were repeated several times. Okay, we had 4 250 character messages that were repeated 4 times in a 2 hour period. Okay, that is very unusual. The last time this happened was back in February, around the 1 year anniversary of the war, when everybody was worried that Putin was going to do some kind of crazy strike. And so they were broadcasting these very long messages. And so now they're doing it again. And I don't know if it's related to the nuclear plant. I don't know if it's related to something else. I heard some news that Ukrainian intelligence is also saying that Russia is planning a large missile strike. That Russia is planning a huge missile strike on Ukraine now. So this is just absolutely crazy, guys. I'm going to continue on with this article now. Let me just see, where was I? Whether the order will come depends on how Russia sees the potential benefits from a nuclear disaster in southern Ukraine. Blah, blah, blah. We already read that. So he's saying that there's two possibilities: that Russia would either use this disaster to prevent Ukraine's counterattack from starting, or they would use it to halt the counterattack after it starts. Okay. So that's what he's saying, that Russia would use it in those two situations, which makes sense, because if they blow that nuclear power plant, there's going to be radiation in the entire area. There's going to be, not just in that immediate area, but all of Ukraine would be contaminated, and Ukraine would have a major disaster on their hands, and they would not be able to conduct a war in that event. I mean, they would have to divert all their resources to help their civilian population and evacuation and all this. I mean, we would have an exclusion zone probably of 50 miles or more around that nuclear power plant. Okay, and that's the area where Ukraine wants to move their troops through. They want to split that land bridge. They want to isolate Crimea from that land bridge. Okay, that's their goal. All right, and so that nuclear power plant is right there. And so if Russia detonates that power plant, melts it down, Ukraine is not going to be able to go in there, because the radiation is going to be so high, it's going to kill all their troops. Okay, so this is a very serious situation, guys. Absolutely insane. The fact that nobody responded when the dam was blown, that could have been a test. Putin could have been testing NATO to see what NATO would do if he blows that dam, and NATO didn't do anything about it. So now he's going to have a green light to go after the nuclear plant. Okay, that's how Putin works. He makes small moves and he gradually escalates, and he sees how the West responds. For example, before the war started, he moved all his forces to the border of Ukraine, and nobody did anything about it. They said it was just an exercise, and then a year later, he actually invades Ukraine. Okay, so that's how Putin operates. He tests us to see what we're gonna do, and when we don't do anything, he escalates. So this is just absolutely insane, guys. So for those of you guys just tuning in, Russia apparently has already drafted and approved a plan to blow the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. We have a massive amount of we have very long emergency action messages being broadcasted today. There were 4 emergency action messages that had over 240 characters, and they were repeated every 30 minutes over a 2-hour period. So they were repeated 4 times, and each time they were successively repeated more. So the first 2 times the message was just repeated once. The third time it was repeated twice, and then the 4th time it was repeated 3 times. Okay, 256 character message. Okay, so I'm actually going to play this message for you guys. Let me see if I can play this here. So just make sure you guys are prepared. I mean, this is just a crazy situation going on here. Let me see if I can get some audio going here. Stand by one moment, please.
All stations. This is backfield. Direct. 6 Kilo 5 Bravo Foxtrot Romeo. Stand by. 6 Kilo 5 Bravo Foxtrot Romeo. Stand by. 6 Kilo 5 Bravo Foxtrot Romeo. Stand by. Message of 246 characters tall. 6 Kilo 5 Bravo Foxtrot Romeo. X-ray Hotel Charlie Foxtrot Kilo Sierra 7 4 Echo Sierra 2 Whiskey Romeo Kilo 7 Golf Lima 7 Kilo Zulu Quebec Juliet Hotel Oscar Hotel Yankee Alpha Oscar Delta Echo 6 Victor Echo Delta Papa Juliet Charlie 7 Juliet 6 3 Charlie Oscar Yankee Echo Whiskey Bravo Kilo Yankee Kilo Sierra Delta India Foxtrot Quebec India Delta India Kilo Uniform Golf Whiskey X-ray Bravo Alpha. So this is the message here. They're reading off. This is the emergency message that they're repeating over and over. Let me answer some of the questions real quick. Somebody's asking, who is the Pentagon transmitting this to? They're transmitting this to our nuclear forces, specifically our Ohio-class subs, which are armed with 20 Trident II D5 ICBMs. Each one of them can carry 10 half-megaton warheads. The Ohio-class sub is the most powerful weapon that man has ever created. Okay, one Ohio-class sub has enough destructive power to annihilate an entire continent, okay? And we have 14 of them, all right? So we are transmitting coded messages, and these are unusually long. these haven't been seen since February, around the 1 year anniversary of the war. CNC Farm says, continue to prepare. Go over your preps. For me, I'm going over the bug out vehicle, making sure it's ready. What's going on, Earth Angel? Jacqueline James, Smoke and Swamp. Yeah, it's sent out by the Pentagon. It's not the actual Pentagon itself, but the National Military Command Center, which is at the Pentagon. That's where these messages originate from. And they're sent out to our nuclear forces, in particular, our Ohio class subs. And these are, you can listen to them with a shortwave radio. I have a shortwave radio. I have a ham radio that can pick them up. But, you can listen to these with software defined radio. I'm getting this from somebody I know that listens to them and records them. So I'm not actually recording it myself. This is from someone that I've shouted out before. If you're interested, you can check out the Frequency Friend Twitter account. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link to his Twitter in the chat here. I'm going to post a link to his Twitter in the chat if you're interested in following what's going on. He follows this pretty regularly. Calbrus says these are launch ready codes. Yeah, they're not actual launch codes. Okay, these are not actual launch codes. These are just to make it clear. I'm not saying that these are launch codes. What these are just like ready codes. They're getting updated information from the Pentagon, okay? Because our nuclear subs, they don't know what's going on. It's not their job to look at intelligence. Their main job is to launch missiles, okay? That's all they do, is they sit in those subs and they wait for an order to launch. That's all they do. So they need updated information so they can better position themselves and update their targeting information. They have to put in the targeting information into those missiles on the subs, because those missiles have pre-programmed targets, and so they have to update that targeting information. So if there's a situation, they have to update. They have to be made aware of what's going on and what the threat is. Kate of Buckingham says, thanks, Greg. You're the absolute best. Thank you so much, Kate. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let me continue with this emergency action message. Let's just listen in a few more minutes here. And then I'm going to play a video of Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal. I want you guys to hear what they said at this press conference, okay, a few days ago. I want you to hear how intense their language was. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Never seen that intensity. I mean, it was crazy. So let's just continue listening to these messages.
India, 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 Papa, Quebecer, Alpha, Echo, Quebec, 7.
Someone said there's no sound. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. Not sure what happened. Hold on. Not sure what happened here. Hold on. Sometimes it's software, so you get different mistakes that happen. Let's see. See if it helps now. Are you guys hearing the emergency action messages? Um, I'm playing the emergency action messages. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing them or not. No, just me. Okay. No broadcasts. All right. Yeah. So these emergency action messages, they're transmitted either by the E6 aircraft, which you can see here on flight radar on your screen. This is an E6 Mercury, and you can see it's doing loops. It's flying in this loop pattern over the Pacific. And when they fly like this, when they do these banking turns, they're transmitting messages. Okay, so it's probably transmitting messages right now. And so the reason why is they have to fly with these tight banking turns in order to transmit the messages, because they have a trailing antenna, and the trailing antenna is like several miles long. Okay, they have, from what I understand, two antennas. They have a shorter one that's 1 mile long, and then they have a longer one that's 5 miles long. And so what they do is they deploy this wire out the back of the plane, kind of like a fishing reel, that like a spool. They have this wire spooled up in the plane, and they can drop that wire out the back of the plane, and then they can transmit these coded messages through VLF. And the reason they use VLF, like I said earlier, is when you use VLF, it's very low bandwidth. And so that allows these messages to penetrate through the water. And also, there's very little signal interference. Okay, if there's a nuclear war, the radiation is going to interfere with the transmission of any kind of radio communications. Okay, it's going to interfere with the comms. So by transmitting through VLF, you can still get your message out regardless of the radiation, or if they're underwater. If they're trying to send a message to a sub that's underwater, they can transmit the message regardless of that. Okay, so that's why they use VLF. We also have land-based transmitters. We have 4 of them, as far as we know, publicly available information. We have 2 in the United States. We have 1 in Hawaii, and then we have 1 in Australia. Okay. The one in Australia is called the Harold E. Holt VLF transmitter station. We have the one in Hawaii, which is, I forget the name of it. It's like Lawalawe or something. I don't know how to speak Hawaiian, but it's like Lawalawe. And then we have Jim Creek in the state of Washington. And then we have Cutler in the state of Maine. Okay. So those are our 4 VLF stations, and they can transmit these signals. But if there's a nuclear war, Russia knows where those stations are, and they would target those stations and obliterate them. So that's why we have these planes, so we can still transmit even if those ground-based stations are destroyed. Okay. So so you guys have sound. You may have to refresh your you may have to refresh your stream because I did have the sound off for a minute or two. But you should have sound now. Let me check. Did you guys hear what I said about the Did you guys hear what I said about the EAMs and how they're transmitted from the ground-based stations? Did you guys hear anything about that? Did you hear how I was talking about Jim Creek and Cutler? Okay, you heard that. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, because that would be annoying if I have to restate all of that. Okay, good. There was also an air raid alert earlier. Okay, there was an air raid alert earlier in Ukraine. The entire country lit up. So something is going on, guys. I don't know exactly what, but okay, no messages. Okay, so voice is good. Okay. So so we currently have an E6 in the air. This is a nuclear war communications relay plane. They can also remotely launch all of our Minuteman III ICBMs from one of these planes. And what's interesting is we don't see much else around the United States besides that E6. We have a P-8 Poseidon that just took off from Jacksonville, which is not unusual. But look here, in Europe, we have no reconnaissance planes. We have no doomsday planes. And that tells me that they probably have their transponders off because of that whole situation with Prigozhin. They were flying without their transponders during that whole situation. I didn't see any doomsday planes, any recon planes, nothing during that whole situation. But now we have this E6 in the air. So let me just play this EAM for you. I'm going to see if I can reset my audio. I don't know why it doesn't let me do the audio. Hold on. Let me see if I can set that up for you guys. So this is just absolutely crazy. All right, this is crazy news. Let's see here. Trying to get the audio of the EAM going.
Echo, Whiskey, Bravo, Kilo, Yankee, Kilo, Sierra, Delta,
they're just reading off this message here. This is that really long EAM. All right, 246 characters. I cannot stress to you how unusual that is. Normally, these messages are like 20 or 30 characters. And for them to be repeating it over and over is kind of concerning. Okay, so something could be going down again. All right. But they just read off these alphanumeric, this message here. I'll play it for another minute or two, and then I'm going to show you guys some other stuff.
4, Papa, Echo, Delta, Foxtrot, Echo, November, Juliet, Quebec, Zulu, Yankee, Golf, Zulu, Juliet, Uniform, Juliet, Alpha, Romeo, Delta, X-Ray, 6, Whiskey, Delta, 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 India, Golf, Uniform, Tango, X-Ray, X-Ray, Echo, X-Ray, November, Yankee, 6, Sierra, Uniform, Uniform, Yankee, Uniform, November, Kilo, Yankee, 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 Charlie, 7, 3, Charlie, Yankee, India, Golf, 7, Tango, 7, Foxtrot, Charlie, Uniform, Uniform, 3, Bravo, 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 3, 2, Oscar, Tango, 6, Victor, Golf, 7, Yankee, Bravo, Kilo, 7, Charlie, Papa, Golf, X-Ray, Golf, Hotel, 7, 7, 7, 7, Romeo, Delta, X-Ray, Tango.
I'm working on some new information. That's why I'm playing this over and over. If you can't respect me, you're going to be banned. So have some respect. You're getting free information here.
Romeo, Romeo, Delta, Delta, Romeo, Delta, Hotel, 3, India, November, 7, 3, 4, Sierra, Yankee, 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 India, Alpha, Golf, Tango, Oscar, Romeo, Lima, Zulu, Victor, I say again.
So that was one of the messages, and let me just show you guys something here. So we have some interesting news here. So this is like a normal message here. Okay, this is a normal message. You see how short it is? I don't know how many characters that is. It's like probably 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so this one has 30 characters, all right? This is what you would call a normal message. You see how they're very short? This is like a normal message. All right. And then you go down here and you see this monstrous message. Okay. 246 characters. That is insane. Okay. That is just absolutely crazy. So this has happened before. The last time this happened was around the 1-year anniversary of the war. They were doing this. They were doing these long messages. So what does that mean? I'm not sure. Nobody knows. So someone's complaining the sound is too loud on the EAMs. Just lower your microphone. I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to use the volume button. I can't make everything perfect. I mean, it's impossible. I know it may seem like it's an easy tweak, but when there's breaking news, the last thing I'm thinking of is the volume levels. If it's too loud, you just lower your volume. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not that difficult to do. I'm not going after you, K. Paul. I'm talking about the other people that were complaining about that. And what's going on, Maria C7? I hope you're doing well. What frequency? The EAMs are usually on 8.992, or they're on 11.175. So those are like the main frequencies for them. There's also some other ones. There's like usually about 5 or 6 frequencies that they transmit on, but usually 8.992 and 11.175 are the main ones. So Badass Mofo, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we have some breaking news coming from Osechkin. Osechkin is a Russian opposition leader, and Osechkin says that Prigozhin's coup took 8 months to plan. That's what his sources are saying. He's got various sources, but he's saying that Prigozhin planned this coup 8 months in advance. Okay, that's what Osechkin is saying. Osechkin is a Russian opposition leader. What's interesting also is there's in the area where Prigozhin took control of that city, Voronezh, there's a nuclear weapons storage site in Voronezh, okay? And we have breaking news that apparently Wagner fighters took control of the nuclear weapons storage facility. Okay, let me share this to you guys. So I don't know if Prigozhin kept some of these missiles and he exfiltrated them. I'm not sure, but let me share with you guys something here. Let's see. So this was posted today. Breaking news. Apparently Wagner fighters yesterday had brief control of Voronezh 45, which is where tactical nuclear weapons are stored. Remember I was saying yesterday the day before, it was yesterday. I was saying that there's a lot of nuclear storage sites in this part of Russia. They have probably over a dozen of them. And they were built during the Soviet Union. Okay, they built these nuclear weapon storage facilities. That's where they store warheads. They're like bunkers, basically. And there's a whole bunch of them in southwestern Russia, and they're claiming there's various sources claiming that Wagner had control of Voronezh 45. Okay, so this is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy situation here. What's going on? For those of you guys just tuning in, if you want to get the gist of the emergency alert, you can skip back to the beginning. Okay, if you skip back to the beginning, you're going to get the gist of this emergency alert, so you know what's going on. If you guys could hit the thumbs up button, I'm almost at 1,000 thumbs up. We're almost there, so hit the thumbs up button. It'll help out this channel, help the algorithm and whatnot. There's all kinds of theories out there. People saying that Prigozhin may have exfiltrated some of these warheads. Maybe that was part of the deal. I mean, who knows? So this is pretty interesting here. Okay. All right. So let me see if I can show you guys where this thing is. Voronezh 45. It's called Borisov-Glebsk National Level Nuclear Weapons Storage Facility. That's where it's located, in Borisov-Glebsk. Okay. I'm going to try to get it up on the map here. So just make sure you guys are prepared. I don't think that this whole situation is over. I don't think the whole situation with Prigozhin is over. I think that there's more than meets the eye. There's a lot more going on that we don't know about. There's a lot more going on that we don't know about. Trying to get you guys a map so you can see this storage facility. It's called Borisov-Glebsk National Level Nuclear Weapons Storage Facility. Okay. Lifted says NYPrepper will let us know if it gets blown up. Yeah, if it gets blown up, I'll definitely be going live for sure, 100%. I'll be going live. Are they going to attack Kyiv from the north? Any info on that? No, as far as I know, I don't have any information on that. So yeah, I don't know about that. So at this point, it's just anybody's guess. Let me see here. Hold on one moment. Want to just share something on the screen here. One moment, please. All right, so it's called the Borisov-Glebsk National Level Nuclear Storage Facility. Apparently, Wagner got control of it yesterday when this whole thing was going on. Okay. And I have it on the map here so we can take a look on the map where this is. So this is where Prigozhin's military went yesterday. They apparently seized control of this area, potentially. Wagner fighters had control. Okay. Hold on one moment. I'm trying to switch my screen around. So this is the storage facility. For those of you guys tuning in, we have breaking news that apparently Wagner, when they were making their coup attempt yesterday, that Wagner forces reached the Borisoglepsk National Nuclear Level Storage Facility, also known as Voronezh 45, where tactical nuclear weapons are stored. I'm trying to just get the map up so you guys can see where that is. All right, so here we have Russia and Ukraine. So this is where that tactical nuclear weapons storage facility is that apparently Wagner got control of. We don't know if they stole some warheads or what, but we do have information that they did enter that area. So this is Rostov-on-Don. This is where the Wagner forces came in, and this is where that nuclear weapons storage facility is. Okay. So who knows? I mean, who knows what happened? There's just so many unknowns with this whole thing. Just absolutely insane, guys. Just so much breaking news. So lots of breaking news, guys. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on here. I just wanted to jump on and give you this breaking news that apparently they have this nuclear power plant rigged to blow. So anything could happen. We have unusually long emergency action messages. So, get yourselves prepared. I'm going to play this press conference of... I'm going to play this press conference. So let me do that. Actually, I'm going to set that up. Stand by. One moment, please. We have an E6 in the air. So for those of you guys just tuning in, we have breaking news that the Ukrainian intelligence chief Kirilo Budanov is saying that Russia has drafted and approved a plan to blow the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and all they're waiting on is an order to be given by Vladimir Putin. He says that they have four reactors out of the 6 that have been rigged with explosives. He said that they have vehicles parked next to the reactors filled with explosives. He's also saying that the cooling pond has been mined and that they're going to try to blow the cooling pond, and then they're going to try to speed up the meltdown by increasing the electricity draw. And he said that the reason they would do this is to slow down or prevent the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Okay. If you remember, Putin said that they were going to create a sanitary zone. I don't know if you remember that. I reported on that. Putin said we're going to create a sanitary zone. So, just make sure you guys are prepared. And we have the senior U.S. senators, Richard Blumenthal and what's his name, Lindsey Graham. They're saying that that they want to pass a resolution that would allow for NATO to get involved if Russia blows the nuclear plant or if they use tactical nuclear weapons. So we could see that happen this week potentially. They're going to vote on that very fast, okay? They're not going to wait very long. It's not going to be like they're passing a gun control bill or something where they have extended debates about it. They're going to try to get this passed very soon, okay? So things are moving fast. We also have breaking news that apparently Wagner forces yesterday were able to reach a tactical nuclear weapons storage facility in the Voronezh area, okay? Ross Snyderman says Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham were sounding the alarm. Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this speech here. Let me play this for you guys so you can hear what they actually said. I've never heard such strong words before from U.S. senators in my life, especially what Blumenthal said was just absolutely crazy. I just couldn't believe how the strong words he was using was just insane. We have EAMs going off like crazy, very long EAMs, which is very similar to a lot of EAMs. It's also very similar. Usually, if something crazy is about to happen, they broadcast these very long EAMs. We also have Ukrainians, Southern Military Directorate or whatever. Ukraine's military is saying that Russia is planning massive airstrikes or missile strikes against Ukraine now. So things are it's just nonstop. It's absolutely insane. I want to just play this clip here of Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal because I think what they said was basically historic. I've never heard this before in my life. This type of language used. So let me get that going here. Hold on one second. It looks like my sound is not working on the screen share. Give me 1 sec here. I gotta restart that screen share. Let me see. Hopefully it'll work now.
So we're introducing a resolution today, since the Senate resolution that says that if Russia or Belarus, or a proxy of Russia, explodes a nuclear device inside of Ukraine to stop the counteroffensive or to try to break the will of the Ukrainian people, such an attack should be considered an attack on NATO itself. We're of the belief that a nuclear weapon unleashed in Ukraine would irradiate large portions of Europe where we have NATO allies. And our message is to those around Putin that if you do this, if you follow his order, if he ever gives it, you can expect a massive response from NATO, and you will be at war with NATO. Senator Blumenthal and I want to put everybody in this body in this.
Let me play that again. Let's play that again.
Radiate large portions of Europe where we have NATO allies. And our message is to those around Putin that if you do this, If you follow his order, if he ever gives it, you can expect a massive response from NATO, and you will be at war with NATO. Senator Blumenthal and I want to put everybody in this body in this. Yes. If you follow his order, if he ever gives it, you can expect a massive response from NATO, and you will be at war with NATO, Putin. That if you do this, if you follow his order, if he ever gives it, you can expect a massive response from NATO, and you will be at war with NATO. Senator Blumenthal and I want to put everybody in this body and this Congress on notice that the threat of a use of a nuclear device by Russia is real. And the best way to deter it is to give them clarity, the Russians, as to what happens if they do that. They will be in a war with NATO.
Where we have seen firsthand the courage and determination of the Ukrainians.
So just crazy words from Lindsey Graham, and I clipped this all together. They had a 30-minute press conference this week, and I clipped it all together to get the main parts. I want you guys to listen very closely to Richard Blumenthal. I've never seen this guy sound so angry and use such strong words before. I mean, I've never seen it. This guy is always like really mellow. I want you to listen closely to what he says. Okay, he says that they would eviscerate and destroy and obliterate Russian forces if they were to melt down the power plant or use tactical nukes.
People, and now on the battlefield, we are seeing it again. The progress has been slow but steady. If that progress continues, as likely it will, Putin could be tempted to use a tactical nuclear weapon, or, just as likely, try to destroy the main nuclear power plant. Both actions would have.
So he's saying just as likely, he said, as Ukraine's progress continues, Putin could use tactical nuclear weapons, or just as likely melt down the nuclear power plant. Okay, just as likely. All right, so the chances of him doing the power plant is the same as the tactical nukes. Let's just hear that again.
Could be tempted to use a tactical nuclear weapon, or just slow but steady. If that progress continues, as likely it will, Putin could be tempted to use a tactical nuclear weapon, or, just as likely, try to destroy the main nuclear power plant. Both actions would have dire consequences for the health of Ukraine, but also surrounding NATO nations. Poland is at immediate risk if the use of tactical nuclear weapons or destruction of a nuclear power plant causes radiation to spread, as almost certainly it would, causing significant human harm. This is not a kind of reckless or panicky resolution. It's based on fact and science, and it is meant to send a message to Vladimir Putin, and even more directly to his military.
Right.
They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated if they use tactical nuclear weapons, or if they destroy a nuclear plant in a way that threatens surrounding NATO nations. Article 5 is there for a reason. It doesn't protect only against a specific soldier crossing a boundary, but harm to our NATO allies triggers our obligation when it comes from a hostile force, as would happen if there were radiation that spread, causing significant harm to human life. And this message ought to be taken seriously by Vladimir Putin's generals. His military risks total obliteration by NATO forces if they are so reckless and irrational as to resort to tactical nuclear weapons.
Wow, guys. Let's listen to that again, okay? Their military faces total obliteration by NATO forces. Listen to that again.
Total obliteration by NATO forces if they are so reckless and irrational as to resort to tactical nuclear weapons. Significant harm ought to be taken seriously by Vladimir Putin's generals. His military risks total obliteration by NATO forces if they are so reckless and irrational as to resort to, certainly it would, causing significant human harm. This is not a kind of reckless or panicky resolution. It's based on fact and science, and it is meant to send a message to Vladimir Putin and even more directly to his military.
Right.
They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated if they use tactical nuclear weapons, or if they destroy a nuclear plant in a way that threatens surrounding NATO nations. They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated if they use tactical nuclear weapons, or if they destroy a nuclear plant in a way that threatens surrounding NATO nations. Directly to his military.
Right.
They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated if they use tactical nuclear weapons, or if they destroy a nuclear plant in a way that threatens surrounding NATO nations. Article 5 is there for a reason. It doesn't protect only against a specific soldier crossing a boundary, but harm to our NATO allies triggers our obligation when it comes from a hostile force, as would happen if there were radiation that spread, causing significant harm to human life. And this message.
So you guys are asking me about the EAMs. As far as I know, I don't have any updated information. I can't tell you if I don't see any new EAMs so far. I don't see any new EAMs so far. So let's see. I'm checking some other news here. We're getting some breaking news. Apparently, it's a good chance that Wagner may have even captured Valery Gerasimov. There's a chance he captured Valery Gerasimov. We also have some breaking news. Alexei Danilov, he's one of the advisors to Ukraine's president, is saying that Lukashenko may have been involved in the rebellion against Putin. So that's pretty insane. And potentially they're saying Ukraine is now saying that it's possible that Belarus and Wagner could team up and lead a rebellion against Putin together. Okay, maybe that's why Lukashenko wanted to bring Prigozhin to Belarus, and why Lukashenko was acting as the middleman. Maybe he's going to rebel against Putin with Wagner. That's what Ukraine is saying, that's a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. That's all just speculation at this point. That's some of the latest information I have. If you want to catch up on the major headlines, you can rewind this live stream. If you're just tuning in now, you can rewind back to the beginning. But this is just absolutely insane. I can't believe what's going on here. I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play the whole thing so you guys can listen to the whole speech. So let me do that, and I'm gonna be searching my sources in the background and double checking if there's anything going on. So stand by.
Happen if there were radiation that spread, causing significant harm to human life. And this message ought to be taken seriously by Vladimir Putin's generals. His military risks total obliteration by NATO forces if they are so reckless and irrational as to resort to tactical nuclear weapons that endanger the world.
To think that Putin wouldn't do this is really irrational given what he has done. I mean, he's committed industrial level war crimes, thinking he will eventually get away with it. His goal now is to wear the West out, slow down the counteroffensive, get people in Washington and other capitals of the world to just break, and offer him some face-saving, life-saving deal. The Ukrainians are in it to win it. They're not interested in having to give up their land by force of arms to the American people. If he gets away with this Putin, there goes Taiwan. But I was stationed in Europe during the Cold War. We always were worried about breaking the Fulda Gap, where Russia would just send, hundreds of thousands of troops to try to destabilize Europe. Ronald Reagan put in tactical nuclear weapons instead of trying to match them man for man and tank for tank, to let them know what the consequences of an invasion of Europe would look like. It was deterrence. It worked. We have a chance now to deter. If you want to avoid a war between Russia and NATO, you need to jump on board with what we're trying to do. We're trying to send a clear signal, unequivocal signal, that if you go down the road of exploding a nuclear weapon in Ukraine to try to turn the tide of battle, that would be an attack on NATO. If you blow up a nuclear power plant to create chaos, that could be considered an attack on NATO. This is a conversation worth having. Let's have it now. If you want to deter war, you have to send clear signals, the cost of action. And we have been very unclear to Putin, but now we need to be really clear. This is a statement from the President of the United States. And I have my differences with President Biden, but I think he's right. I can't believe it hadn't made more news.
Yeah.
I mean, Biden says threat of Putin using tactical nuclear weapon is real. He is right. So Jake Sullivan, they're considering their options. They will do what they need to do, and what we're trying to do is tell them, the administration and Stoltenberg, you need to be clear publicly or through back channels that we basically have your back. We're trying to tell the president that Democrat and Republican, we think this is a widely held view in the Senate, that we would have your back to make sure that Putin does not use a nuke. I've been around for a while. I've never seen a greater threat to the use of nuclear weapons than I do now, maybe since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I guess the point we're making here is that as Putin gets more desperate, as he loses grip, as his army begins to disintegrate, this is a dangerous time. So we're not going to let his threat stop us from helping Ukraine, because that's what he wants us to do. Threaten us, bully us. We need to send a message to him. More importantly, as Senator Bloom said, to those around him. If you up the ante this way, all hell will break loose on you, 10 times greater than it is today. And I think we're speaking for a lot of senators here that want to let Putin know, don't go down this road. You do so at your own peril. We're not generals. We're saying, in our view, that would invoke Article 5.
Exactly.
Okay. You can send tanks into Poland or some neighboring NATO nation, or you can explode a weapon inside of Ukraine that makes living conditions in surrounding NATO nations unbearable.
And remember, 2 points here. When Senator Graham says, rightly, we're not generals, there are a variety a vast variety of options we would have without using
Right.
nuclear weapons ourselves. One of them, for example, to destroy the means of delivering those tactical nuclear weapons by the Russians. In other words, to undercut or degrade their ability to use those tactical nuclear weapons without ourselves using them in return. Second point, to anybody who is thinking, gosh, are they talking about using U.S. troops, putting American men and women service members on the ground in Ukraine? No. What we're trying to do is avoid
Right.
American troops being engaged by a miscalculation on Putin's part that we would simply sit by if that radiation causes harm to our allies in a way that NATO is designed to forestall. So all we're doing is saying the NATO obligation is real. Harm to our allies under Article 5 means we are involved when it is harm resulting from military action.
Every time we get ready to deliver a decisive blow, they say these things. Focus on the outcome. The outcome is to evict the Russians from Ukraine, stabilize the world, not to invade Russia. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about stopping aggression in Ukraine before it spreads to the rest of the Europe, deter China, and now we're talking about if you use a nuclear weapon as an effort to turn around this war, you're not going to turn around the war in Ukraine. You're going to get into war with NATO.
Every day this war goes on is a day that he is escalating the war.
Right.
He is attacking infrastructure. He's escalating the destruction of the dam that causes disease, loss of crops, and so forth. That's an escalation. And our fear is that he will further escalate in a way that will involve Article 5. Nobody wants American troops on the ground there.
So pretty crazy speech there. Yeah, I'm still around. I just had to step away for a minute. I had to step away for a minute. So, that's the major breaking news. I'm going to play this again from the beginning so you guys can hear it. I'm going to replay it again. But let's see here. Looks like somebody donated. Let me see. Who donated here? Let me see. A 246 character emergency action message. 246 characters. Destination Zen. Thank you for that donation, Destination Zen. I appreciate that. NYPrepper, I hope you're doing well. P.S. More Dark Winter. Yeah, I'm planning to do some more Dark Winter very soon, XNYC. Bradley Moore says good info. Thank you, Bradley. I appreciate that. Appreciate all your support. Any info on movements with bombers? I don't know anything about bombers moving around. We did have this E6 that was doing loops in the Pacific earlier. So let me get the EAMs up for you so you can see what's going on. It looks like for now, I haven't seen any more of these long messages for a little while, but this was the message right here. Let me put it up on the screen for you guys. So this was the EAM. It's really long. There were several long EAMs today. Yeah, that's pretty much all the major breaking news that I have. I don't know if you guys, should I leave the live stream up or should I have to do a couple of things today, so I'm not going to be able to stay by the computer for all night like the other day. So I don't know if you guys want me to what I can do is I can restart the stream and leave it up in the evening, and I can check back throughout the evening. What do you guys think I should do? So yeah, I do know Lee Wheelbarger. We speak on the phone. Lee's a good guy. Okay, end the stream and start over. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut this stream down. So in case somebody wants to rewatch it and get the latest news, I'm gonna shut this one down, and then I'm gonna restart a new one and leave it up. And I'm gonna have to step away and do some things. I gotta do some things around the house. I gotta cut the grass because we had a lot of rain over the weekend, and the grass is just growing like crazy because I live. There's no trees around my house because I live on a farm, and so the farmer cut all the trees down so there wouldn't be any leaves falling on his crops, and so we get direct sunlight all day. And so if there's just a little bit of rain, the grass just grows like an inch in a day or two. So I'm gonna shut the stream down and I'm gonna restart it, and I'm gonna leave it up so you guys can hang out, do whatever, and then I'm going to come back later on tonight. I'm not sure exactly the time, but it's probably going to be like I don't know, in 2 hours or something like that. So that's what I'm going to do. So thank you guys for all your support, and if you guys want to get the main breaking news from this stream, just rewatch it once I end the stream, or even now you can just go back to the beginning. I go into all the major points. Okay. So Rodney says, holy macaroni, Greg, are the Russians serious or what? Yeah, the Russians are the situation is getting crazy. So take care, guys, and I'll see you a little later on. And God bless. Don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.